Hello traders, welcome again to my weekly crypto market recap. My name is Patrick Maldonado, junior cryptocurrency trader and market analyst at Alpha Chain Capital, and also creator of TCE Trading. How are you guys? Thank you for joining me once again. I hope that you have seen that the crypto market has been doing some very good moves. We're going to be covering some of the reasons, some potential situations, both bearish and bullish perspective, because tensions with also with upcoming elections in the US. Everything is really piling in, so it's definitely going to be an interesting month. The month of November is going to be very, very interesting for both crypto, for both financial markets. So guys, I hope that you've been doing great. I know that some new people might be watching the re-upload of the webinar. So in any case, usually the way that I do these webinars is I start with covering some of the news that happened during last week, so that we can have a better kind of view of the economic environment, or at least fundamentally for the coming week. And then I'm gonna go into the market analysis, gonna be covering Bitcoin against other pairs and also against other financial markets, just to see how it is doing on the macro picture. And in the end, I usually cover topics of interest. In this case, I'm going to be covering a little bit more about swaps and fees, specifically for crypto. There's some interesting things to talk about that. So guys, I would appreciate if you have any questions, if you have any topics of interest, please write them down in the chat. I usually, at the Q&A is very interesting to see and to answer some of the questions that you may have. It's always kind of good to do that. So yeah, let's start with this. Let me just change so that you can see, first of all, the news. I hope that you are already aware of this. It's been huge news over the past week. Very important. PayPal is gonna be offering crypto payments starting in 2021. Now, this is fully confirmed by them. The reason why this is so important is because it's the real start of the real adoption, right? So cryptocurrencies have been having a real problem throughout these years. And the reason is because, people understand why Bitcoin is good, in terms of transaction, in terms of, borderless payments, in terms of store of value, and there's a lot of pairs, decentralization, and so on. But nothing is really important if you cannot use them as they were designed for, to make kind of like peer-to-peer payments, right? So now this opens the gateway for a lot of people, for a lot of mainstream people who already are into digital payments via PayPal, to start getting into crypto, and that's a huge news. Now, this is still, in my opinion, not the last kind of like drop that's gonna bring the adoption. The reason is because usually with PayPal and with all other services, the way that it works is that the sellers or the markets, they are gonna sell in US dollars, right? The only thing is that if you have crypto, you can probably just do the exchange at the moment of the transaction and use kind of like your crypto, but in reality, you're selling your crypto and you're buying the product. It's not really that you are using that Bitcoin and the seller is gonna receive that Bitcoin, right? They usually just settle in a US dollar. So that's something that it's important to see how this is gonna work. Again, that's mostly because of regulations. It's still not stipulated how payments on cryptocurrencies would be. So definitely that's something that we need to wait. But this is like a gateway for a lot of people, and a lot of people are using PayPal. Even myself, when I see that payment options, if there's PayPal, I will definitely use it. There's a lot of advantages in terms of what you get and the rights and the service, and PayPal is a good service overall. So this change from not wanting to offer crypto and not wanting to be involved is very important, to say the least. So let's just read a little bit of the news. So PayPal announced on Wednesday its entry to the cryptocurrency market. So it's already official that this is gonna happen. So the payments will be sold through fiat currencies, as I just said, it would be the case, similar to many existing crypto merchant solutions like Bitpay. So this means that the merchants will be receiving fiat as PayPal will take care of the conversion. So this is also where they are gonna be entering. And in terms of why you would be using your crypto to sell, it's still an option of, I think they're trying to give us the option, because me as having, my crypto portfolio, I wouldn't really think of using it to pay. One, because of the volatility, and because usually these exchange rates are going to be bad, and they're going to be really taking advantage of kind of like at the spread, at which point do you sell, how much are they taking per commission, and so on. So that's still a lot of things that we need to discuss before saying, yeah, this is kind of like the real deal. But still, that's very bullish overall, because people are going to be able to buy crypto via PayPal. They are most likely going to have a wallet, which I'm going to read here. But in any case, let's see which assets potentially will be there. So the coins initially supported will include Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin, the company says. So the payments giants partner with Paxos to deliver the service, and it is obtain a conditional cryptocurrency license from the New York State Department. So, they already have everything, pretty much. I think it's just waiting for them to finish the final details. Maybe they're running some beta testing to see that everything is going all right. So in addition to cryptocurrency payments, PayPal users will also be able to purchase crypto directly. This is the big thing, this is the big thing, because a lot of people use PayPal. I mean, of course, you need to think about the majority of people. So the majority of people, I mean, if you think about the entire world, probably they are still going to be using cash. But in terms of, going up through the pyramid of what people are starting to be using, my guess would be that after that, it's going to be credit cards, debit cards, type of plastic kind of like settlements. Then on top of that, it's going to be, of course, digital payments, just like, again, PayPal. I think Skrill is also another one. There's plenty of them around. And on top of that, it's going to be this crypto kind of like crypto way or crypto payment gateway. So this is going to be definitely very interesting, because, of course, this is going to take advantage of the previous spot, which is all these digital payments like PayPal. So, with that adoption, it's going to be very interesting to see how people react, mainly because, usually what happens in crypto is that when things start going up, people start FOMOing, they start buying. So it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, PayPal is going to, it's going to make a lot of money from this, mainly, again, because of the currency exchange. And usually they will take a big commission. I think when you're trying to transfer just as a payment option, they take 3% plus whatever exchange conversion. So this is going to be very profitable for them. Now, the next news, it's regarding more the election that I talked about before. It's the political stress in the US. It's going to dictate a lot of things. So Cointelegraph had an interview with Max Keiser. So if you don't know Max Keiser, he is kind of like a Bitcoin, he talks a lot about Bitcoin. He's a reporter, or a former reporter. I don't know if he's still with a news reporter in RT News, I think it is. Well, in any case, he is, advocating a lot for Bitcoin, and he said that Bitcoin might vault higher or go higher if Biden wins, and if Trump wins, it's gonna go up, but at a slower rate. Now, what he says, it's very interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna go through the whole interview. If you want to take a look, of course, you can go to Cointelegraph, find the article. But there's some points that I would like to really highlight. So some of the questions is here. So were you surprised when they asked Kaiser? Were you surprised at the news that PayPal is entering Bitcoin and crypto? So he says, no. PayPal comes to the realization faster than others that Bitcoin is an existential threat to their business, and ignore it would mean going out of business. So this is kind of true. I mean, of course, we're still at the very beginning of the cryptocurrency adoption, but this is a good point because, with borderless transactions, people are going to be more and more interested. Of course, governments need to follow, and they are doing it even with CBDCs, which is the cryptocurrency exchanges that they're doing, or for the central bank cryptocurrency exchanges, which is going to be very interesting. How the governments follow with regulation. That's going to be the key importance in here. This is why, again, everything is settled in fiat, at least with PayPal and other companies, is because there's still not enough certainty regarding the regarding the transactions in Bitcoin or in other cryptocurrencies. It's pretty straightforward that if you have crypto, you can sell it. If you sell it, you pay the merchant, but still they cannot receive payments in cryptocurrencies in Bitcoin or whatever, because of course of tax implications and so on. So that's one of the things that I wanted to point out. Again, there's a lot of things here. He was talking more about Biden and his reasoning. I want to find out where here it is. So they were talking really, about his thoughts on Biden, Trump, etc. How do you expect Bitcoin will react to the election? What he says is a Biden win means a win for corruption and a deep state. So I would expect Bitcoin's price to vote higher as people panic buy on confiscatable Bitcoin before Biden's socialist. He's talking about the government as if it would have socialist implications. But he says with Trump, the U.S. has a chance at a more orderly tradition to Bitcoin, so the price would move up more slowly. So what he's pointing out, again, there's been a lot of allegations in terms of the political candidates, and Biden's, he's been labeled as potentially being corrupt. I'm not an expert in politics, so I'm not really gonna bring that, but that's kind of like the case, and he also brings this state of potentially being a socialist state, which, I don't think it's gonna be exactly true, but yes, it has a lot of implications in the economy, in the tax legislations, and so on. So it's definitely interesting to see that, because of the uncertainty. I think what he's heading more towards is, a Biden win would mean more uncertainty in the current market, because everyone knows Trump by now. They more or less know what could happen, what his ideas are. But a Democratic win at this state, with the lockdowns and how they're preaching a lot of the social problems and also the pandemic problems that are happening, is going to be very interesting. So, this is a very interesting approach, to say the least. I kind of agree with this, mainly because right now, and we're going to be talking about that in the market recap, in the market analysis. But Bitcoin is decoupling from traditional markets, and if because of this big decoupling, the way I call it, there is a strong potential that if there's more uncertainty, for instance, that Biden wins, the stock market most likely is going to go down. I think that's almost pretty assured if there's a Democratic win, because, tax implications, because of how they like to try to tax the rich even more and increase those taxes, and, make it more difficult for people to kind of like involve in business in some cases. So if there is a decouple with Bitcoin, which is there is the potential that the stock market continues going down with a Biden win, while gold and while also Bitcoin start going up as a hedge of the overall economy. Now, the last news is this is AML, which is a strong topic overall, anti-money laundering rules. So it says U.S. AML watchdog wants info on all international crypto transactions over $250. Now, this is, this could also be very impactful for crypto, and which whatever is happening right now with PayPal. There was, a law before. They want to change that would cut down the $3,000 threshold. So before, you didn't really have to have information to the party that you are sending money to if the transaction was below this limit. Now they want to change this. So here, according to a notice of proposed rulemaking published on Friday, the agency wants to lower that 3,000 threshold established in 1995 to $250 for international transactions, meaning that financial institutions would need to exchange client information alongside all transactions greater than 250 that begin or end outside of the United States, which is to say, the travel rule, as it is known, would apply to quite small amounts of money changing hands. Now, the proposed change here's the important thing, specifically calls out convertible virtual currencies, saying that they would also fall into the category of money for the purpose of this rule. So this is, this is basically kind of like Big Brother sensing that crypto is the next thing, and of course they want to be able to have this into consideration. Now, this is something that might put a delay on Bitcoin really growing. And the reason is because, Bitcoin is all about borderless transactions. It's all about having a wallet, you're sending, and in less than 10 minutes, you can get the money. It doesn't matter where, and it very cheaply. There's been reports of people sending millions and just paying basically a couple dollars or even less. It's just crazy. And this could hamper that because, anti-money laundering would mean that you need to be in a centralized network where they have your information, your KYC, know your customer, and all that, and they would be, taking that same information, your private information, and sending it to whoever is sending you money or whoever you want to send money, if they're in the US. So that has a lot of repercussions in terms of, GDPR, which is global data protection. Again, it's interesting that they want to do this because, of course, they want to make sure that they are sure where the money is coming and where the money is going. But it seems kind of like a lot, reducing this to $250, because I don't think for international transactions there's no reason to do this small amounts of money. Usually when you do international transactions, you want to do bigger quantities, not only because of the cost involved, but also of the nature. You usually don't spend small money. I mean, you usually spend less money or smaller quantities in your own country than when you are trying to do a transaction. There's a reason that you need to do that transaction. It's kind of like special in that sense. So, this is very interesting to see the approach of, the different governments. Of course, the U.S. government's trying to be on top of Bitcoin. So, this, again, it might be a little bit of news that might hamper the growth of Bitcoin, because the way I see it, this is one of the key elements of cryptocurrencies, that they are going to be able to, borderless transaction, and it's frictionless, and you can send it everywhere to whoever you want in almost no time. And this puts a big restriction, because if you are, maybe if you have someone from the US and you want to send money to him or her, you need to abide by this 250, meaning that if you want to send more than 250, most likely there needs to be a third party, in terms of like, PayPal or other broker exchange, that have the KYC or the data, the sensitive data, so that you can transfer, and they can verify you, or at least a watchdog can verify who you are and why you're sending money, or why people are receiving money from you. So that's very interesting. Please have that in mind, which, again, we're in a period of a lot of high volatility. We're in a period of a lot of FOMO. Even I'm going to open the Crypto Greed and Fear Index here, because right now it's at 61, but just yesterday was at 75, which is surprising that it went down this much, since the market is still going up. So there's kind of like a discrepancy there, but the market is very greedy at the moment. And the reason I'm saying this is, again, I hope that you remember from last webinar, what I pointed out really was the potential of decoupling, and I specifically if Bitcoin breaks to the upside while the stock market continues going down, this is potentially very bullish, and this does mean that Bitcoin has finally decoupled from traditional markets. And I'm just gonna be zooming out just again to highlight how correlated they were. And a lot of people don't want to admit this. I see a lot, in different websites and different forums, people, when it comes to Bitcoin, you either love it or you hate it. It seems like, people cannot have like a neutral view of the market and kind of like more realistic expectations. There are people who just FOMO and they, pro Bitcoin, and the other side, people who they say, that it's nothing good. But here, I mean, you need to see, how both markets that were going up, then they were up, they were consolidating, continue rallying, they find a top, they went and correct themselves, to an area of resistance, which is in here, the last correction. Then they continue rally, and this is where I pointed out, because it was basically the previous peak for Bitcoin, and here the previous peak around here. So they took different paths. As you can see, Bitcoin broke, continued rallying to the upside, while the stock market didn't go up and retraced back down. So this decoupling has important macroeconomic effects, to say the least. What I'm expecting is potentially Bitcoin trying to find its way through this resistance. And again, if it breaks 14,000, possibilities are at 20,000 once again, because this is basically the last level of resistance, or at least foreseeable resistance. Maybe you could say that around here at 17,000 from this move. But to be honest, if it breaks this level, I would have no questions that this might be going to 20K to the all-time highs. Again, this is a pretty big kind of point. This is another make or break deal for Bitcoin. This was a very strong one in terms of actually going back down. So this is another test for Bitcoin, really. Here we have how, previously the market went onto here and then it went back down. So we're at that area, 12,000. It was almost the same. It was a very strong area of resistance, and when we got up there, it actually corrected back down. So, I would be very diligent in looking at what happens here, because there's possibility for a really, a correction for all this rally. Now, something that I haven't seen a lot of people pointing out is, if you see this is a rising wedge, usually you have this when the price is getting compressed, and the volume, I hope that you see it from this point in time, the volume is going down. So this is a true pattern, and these are I like to trade these on the 4-hour chart or whatever I see them, but on the daily chart, this can have a big repercussions if Bitcoin starts going down. I'm gonna give a breather in here because we're in an area of resistance. But if Bitcoin fails, again, in combination with traditional markets, with the uncertainty that's happening, with the pandemic, with the elections, this is basically a recipe for disaster if Bitcoin cannot go through. But on the opposite hand, if Bitcoin can go up, I want to say sky is the limit, but potentially the first limit is really all-time highs at around 20,000. So I'm really looking at this, even in intraday levels, just to see what the price action does. But it's very interesting because if it fails, potential targets would be, first of all, retesting 12,000. But if it gets rejected from this level, what I see is potentially this coming as still a little bit up, retest the end of the level, correcting back down. And if this happens, this is where everything is at, in the retest. If it can retest and continue going back up, we're gonna more than anything, I'm pretty sure that if it does that, retraces and retests this level back again, potential of going up, breaking and going parabolic are, I don't want to say guaranteed because there's nothing guaranteed on crypto, or any market, but it's it's a very good percentage wise in probability. It's very good probability if we retest and successfully bounce from here, going parabolic and at the very least to 20k, or maybe somewhere in between. If it breaks from this line, that's where we need to start kind of like not worrying about it, but it's gonna be a bigger correction probably, because if it breaks this line, the next line or level will be at 10,000. This is again a key support. So in my opinion, it might be very difficult for it to break. But if it breaks this level, you would start looking at other support levels and so on. I actually had the Fibonacci retracement tool around here. So if I can see, I think it was from around here all the way up. So in bullish terms, we still have a lot of potential move to the downside, and still kind of being very well, at the very least, bullish in the longer picture. I don't think that we are really gonna go way lower than potentially 9,000. I think that would be the extreme around those levels, but the market always surprises. In any case, what I really want to point out is don't FOMO, because this is where a lot of people start buying. They start getting greedy. This is where we have this blow of tops, and then we start going down. So this is usually what happens. I am not saying that it cannot go still up, but I'm saying that the market is getting very, very greedy. And when people get greedy, there's someone who has a lot, because again of liquidity issues, they want to sell, and that's where the dumps start happening. So here the point that I'm trying to make is if this actually breaks to the upside, breaks this resistance, or if it retests and continues going back down. So it's really waiting for confirmation, because at any point in time the price can go up or down. It's really waiting for the move to happen, so it's confirmed, and then we can, hopefully you guys will be able to see it. Let me just maximize this, but I hope that you realize that we are trading nearly the 61.8 retracement from the top, the all-time highs and the all-time lows. So we're pretty much trading around that level. So this is really a make or break situation for Bitcoin. This is a strong level. I still think that it might go up to retest maybe 14,000, but yeah, an option strategy like this might really be very, very good in this specific situation. So I don't really trade options, but if you are, there's a potential setup in this specific scenario. Now, just to kind of like conclude the analysis, I just wanted to head to gold. Well, first of all, to gold in here, because gold is not really moving either. And this is what's surprising to me, that the only asset that is really climbing is really Bitcoin. And this is also what this is why I'm kind of a little bit skeptical, because usually you want, when there's uncertainty, gold starts going up. I would think that that's the case, but gold is not really going up. So I don't know if this is part kind of like a bigger transition into Bitcoin with PayPal news and everything, or if this is just a really FOMO, because it could also be that there's kind of like a delay in terms of what the price action is doing, because again, uncertainty is not good for any market, unless it's kind of like inversely correlated with stock market, which is supposed to be the case of gold. So you can see the uncertainty right here. I would have already expected gold to move up as the stock market started falling down, which is what we see. But it's pretty stagnant. It's moving sideways, so people are really undecisive. There's a lot of uncertainty here, and in Bitcoin, people, in my opinion, they're FOMOing here. The people who are buying here, again, it's a high risk setup, because it could go either way. So as Tamas said, kind of like an option strategy in there would be kind of like the best, without pun intended, the best option in there. The last thing, the dollar currency index, again, it's retesting this important level of support. It seems like it wants to bounce from there. It's kind of like correcting once more. But this is just, again, what usually you would expect. If this starts rebounding, you would expect the markets to start, losing some of the gains, especially Bitcoin, I would think, but it doesn't seem like it. And again, with uncertainty, with the elections, with a potential Biden or Democratic win, I don't think the dollar currency index would look very good in those terms, because there would be a lot of uncertainty in there. And I don't think the traditional markets, equities, are going to follow. So it's going to be the case that both of them, can go down, as we see here. Here in this leg, it was basically this leg. So both of these can go down. Usually, in healthy, in a healthy environment, you would see, if the currency dollar goes back down, means that money is less valuable, so people would be investing in other areas. So you would usually look at this going up, as we saw in here, right? Whenever the index was going up, whenever it was kind of correcting here, going down, this is where equities were rallying. So please take in mind that if these two are correlating, it's because people are very uncertain of what is happening, and people are definitely worried about elections. Now, it took a long time because things, everything was rallying, and it took kind of like all this time just before a couple days, couple weeks before the election, just to see what's going to happen. So, guys, the last thing that I wanted to point out, I'm going to show it, is just it's mainly for the cryptocurrency traders who are trading with the account in here. So let's just, if I can open this, I want to show you what I'm currently looking at, because one of the questions that I heard from some of you guys, it was that about the spreads, not the spreads, about the swaps in cryptocurrency. So this is a demo account because I wanted to really test this theory that I had. Here in the market watch, you have the different cryptocurrency pairs. If you go and go for the specification, you can see not only trading hours, swaps, etc. You can also see when you will be charged a 3-day swap in cryptocurrency. So the reason I'm bringing this is because I was speaking to another trader, and we were discussing the swaps, and this has been kind of like a hot topic, even in terms of the accounts. And pretty sure that Gavin already had a webinar addressing the fees for everything, but I wanted to really focus on cryptocurrency. So basically, the way it works, if you have one lot, in case of Bitcoin, one lot equals 1 Bitcoin of exposure. If you end up trading between basically whatever time until midnight, for this broker, I think it's also UK. I think it's the same time, London time, or GMT plus 4, I think it is. But in any case, when you have a position before and then go through those 5 minutes where the market is closed, you're gonna be charged a swap. Now, a swap of 91 is quite a lot, mainly because of risk management, right? Usually, if you have the $15,000 account, you are gonna be at the maximum risking like 0.03% per position, which is about $45 if I'm not incorrect. So you have to take into consideration potential commissions and costs and so on. Now, the commissions are not really that bad. I have taken some example trades. I don't think I can see the commissions any longer, but it's not really that bad. I think it's like $4 per lot, which is a very good deal. Now, in terms of the swap, what happened to one of the trades that I was talking about is that he put a position on, I think it was on potentially on either Thursday or Wednesday. I think it was Thursday, and left it through a 3-day swap. So he had a position on Litecoin for, I think that position was super small, it was like $15 position, and because of these 3-day swaps, he ended up paying almost about 21. So this is why I wanted to address it, because there's ways that you can go, I mean, not past this entirely, but you can take advantage of this. So what I did was, okay, trying to see if I can open a position and just pretty much close it after. Now, this will depend on when you are trading. This might be very late for some of you guys, but for instance, in here around America, it is like 5 p.m. So this is in the middle of the trading day. And this is another reason why I really wanted to test this. So if you open a position here, again, it's a demo account, but I have some closed positions here. I tried testing it overnight. That's why I just let the trade run. Here you can see a swap of 9.13 for 0.1 lots of Bitcoin. So if you multiply times 10, you have the 90 that I was speaking about. So I had 2 trades overnight. Well, not really. I had 2 open trades before this overnight position. Then I closed one basically just 5 seconds before, like literally 5 seconds before the markets close. But they usually close for 5 minutes. So this is what you can see around here. It's really the trading hours of the specific asset. So here it's literally from 24 to 00:05. So during those 5 minutes, that's where all the swaps are charged. So what my theory was, like, okay, I can theoretically open a position if the market is still open, because to take into consideration, like for instance, equities won't open, right? They won't open until the next day. Forex market is 25/7, so of course with Forex you can potentially do the same. But in this case, because the swaps are too high, there's a potential of people closing the positions just before that time, waiting for 5 minutes and reopen the position, because and this is kind of feasible. And the reason is because it's better to pay $4. Again, this is if you are kind of like trading more potentially not really all swing trading, but potentially if you need an extra day or maybe extra 2 days, it's because if you are trading one lot, which you might potentially be doing at some point, paying $90 versus paying $4, it's a no-brainer. So this is what I wanted to bring this to the topic, because it is possible for you to close out. Of course, there's going to be a risk. The main risk is, that in 5 minutes the price moves very drastically. But usually you will have that during a small periods of time. It's going to be just jumping back and forth. So I think that in terms of the possibilities of you getting the same price or something closer, versus paying that risk of 90 so per lot might be in your favor, at least for this. So just keep in mind that this is something that you can do in order to avoid swaps. I would mainly suggest this if you are kind of doing the 3-day swap, which usually happens on Thursday when you're jumping from Wednesday to Thursday. The reasoning is because in traditional broker terms, when you are entering in a new trade on Thursday, you only have Friday, and then it's a weekend, so you have to pay for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they charge you 3 times the swap because of that. I mean, this does not necessarily apply exactly to Bitcoin the way it applies to other assets, but it is the case for most brokers. So you have to watch out, exactly for kind of the Thursday transition, because you would be charged triple that. And if you have maybe a position of one lot, triple that would be just 270, right? So that's detrimental to your account. And that's only for an overnight position. So please keep in mind that, depending on where you are currently at. If it's too late, then it's not worth it just waiting for it to close and reopen the position. Maybe if you're up and it's midnight or whichever time. But if you're also like on this area of the world, in this part of the world, this is something that you can actually do. So I just really wanted to point that out, because I know that some traders were kind of having some problems with that, and I think it was worth pointing out that you can close it before the swap happens, open it after, maybe waiting a little bit for the price, or even, sometimes you will have not a lot of movement, maybe a couple, 10, 20 at maximum during 5 minutes, unless it's very high volatile. But, when markets are closing, where the day is over, usually there's not a lot of volume and not a lot of movement. But, well, in any case, this is pretty much what I wanted to discuss for this webinar. I'm gonna take a look at the chat because I know that some of you guys have been writing some things in there. So I was looking at some of the comments that Callum said. That the price and what we talked about again, PayPal is going to really impulse the price. If it breaks, it's the better. But in terms of trading, of course, you just follow normal setups. If it really breaks, closes outside, potentially retest this. It's kind of like a potentially safe trade. But what I mean is that in cryptocurrencies, and this is just from experience, people FOMO a lot, or this fear of missing out. They go into it, and you can see it in here, where the price, we were actually getting out from the 3,000 area. People started FOMO. We have still not reached this price, but we're probably gonna be reached very soon. I'm pretty sure that today we might reach it, but we still have the high here around 3,800. All I'm saying is, to do your due diligence. I'm not talking to you because I'm just talking as for traders overall. Is that these situations, they're very good opportunities to take trades, but in terms of the average people just investing into Bitcoin at this point, it's high risk in that term, because if you're new to crypto and you want to go in when it's already at a higher high, it might break and it might continue going high, which is called momentum trading, and it can be positive. But usually even in an uptrend, you will see you always have peaks, going down again, going up again. This is a normal of a trend. So if anything, if you are following that trend, it's way better to follow when it's correcting or when it's at a pullback. It's kind of like safer rather than just waiting for it. But I do agree that the chances of this breaking up probably are a bit higher. But cryptocurrency is very volatile, so I never discard the contrarian viewpoint, in this case, this potential wedge. So yeah, I think we see that it's actually breaking. So that for me, the test would be 14,000, guys. If it really breaks outside 14,000, we might really see a potential run again to maybe around 17 initially from the price action that we have over here. That would be my first guess. So around here, and then it's only almost 20k what's left.